One more story wants to come here. Stories do not always enter through the door or through the window. They have their own ways of entering the room. So it's really hard to stop a story. When the story wants to come, it will come. What we can do is to say welcome and thank you for coming. And please, please, share yourself, offer yourself. We may grab a cup of coffee or tea or lemonade, grab a pen and a notebook and just sit with a story for a chat. And this story is about a river. A river. The birthplace between two stones that cracked 1,000 years ago. From there, just as between two legs, a little stream of water is flowing out into the world. And if rivers love something, they love to flow. And this little stream is flowing like no other river. There's no obstacle for this river. It's imprinted already in its mission, in its DNA, to flow over any obstacle that encounters. And this river makes no exception. Flowing down, he joins other streams, becoming bigger and bigger. In the first part of his life is called Mountain River. Enjoying beautiful views, trees, birds are all there to witness how this little stream is growing. Have you seen mountain rivers? Aren't they beautiful? Did you wash yourself in the water of the mountain river? Isn't it cold? Yes. The river is flowing, flowing and growing, says the song, and the story as well. Going to another phase of life. Going down from the mountains, the river reaches the hills. A bit bigger. More streams have joined the river. And now he is called River of the Hills. Have you seen rivers in the hills?
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit bigger, a bit more calmer. Still, water is cold, right? And you know, the prophecy must be fulfilled. So the river is flowing, flowing and growing, leaving behind the hills and reaching the plains. Have you seen rivers in the plains?
Yeah.
Wider, calmer, a little bit warmer, but not too warm. So this is our river, carrying trees on it. Sometimes some people say that frogs and raccoons and mice hang around on the banks of the river. This is what some people say. I must trust them and believe them. And it happens that our river, this beautiful river that we have witnessed from the top of the mountain till the plains, is now called the River of the Plains. And the journey of this river brings it in a landscape that he has never seen before. Brings it in front of a grandiose, enormous desert. The river knew that what he has to do is flow over any obstacle. So the river, with enormous power and confidence, is heading straight forward, willing to cross the desert. But as he's walking and flowing, he sees how his waters are disappearing into the sand. This feels new to the river. So he said, well, I must gather all my strength and forces and flow even stronger, so I will overcome the desert. Flowing with strength, but again, slowly and slowly, the water of the river is disappearing through the grains of sand. What to do, said the river. I thought that my mission is to cross this desert. In the confusion, there is a voice coming from not far away. It was the voice of the desert saying, the wind crosses the desert, so does the river can cross the desert. Hold on, said the river. You know, we all know that the wind can fly over and go over the desert, but that's not possible. That's for the wind. I need to go fully and do what I know to do. You must let yourself be contained by the wind, said the voice of the desert. You must surrender yourself to the wind. Surrender? What's that? Never heard of that word. I'm a river, and I flow over any obstacle. If you want to cross the desert, you need to surrender yourself to the river, repeated the voice. The river was witnessing how the water was disappearing. So this means that I can no longer be a river. And the voice replied, you need to give up your old ways of being if you want to cross the desert. Of course, you may stay here, but you will become a swamp. You will become a marsh, and that will take a long time. Of course, there's this option, said the voice coming from the desert. And the river felt that it's really hard to do that. Well, what you're saying is that I need to give up on my identity as a river? Well, your old ways will no longer serve you. You must let your essential part be absorbed by the wind and be carried over the desert. And then you will be transformed again into a river. That felt very awkward. That felt really strange for the grandiose river to surrender itself, to let itself be absorbed by the wind. But through these thoughts and through these conversations, images, old forgotten images, even before his birth, came into his imagination. Not knowing if they're real or just fantasies. Remembering that somehow at one point he was just drops. He was just drops that at one point gathered and formed a little creek. And in that moment, the river knew that he needs to surrender. He needs to let itself be absorbed and become one with the wind. So the wind gently took the river, gently took the waters, absorbing them, leading them up high, and carried them miles and miles away. And when the river, being embraced by the wind, reached the high mountains, drops of rain started falling on the ground, being swollen by the ground, by the earth, and then gathered in a womb. And then through a crack in the stones that looked like two legs that want to give birth, the little creek, the water, came back into being, knowing its true identity. Surrendering to the wind. Now we want to feed you with a question. The question is about surrendering. Yeah. The question is, what do you need to surrender? Or there are more questions that circulate. So what do you need to surrender to? What do you need to surrender? What do you need to let go of? By what do you need to be absorbed by? Yeah, what do you need to surrender to? What do you need to surrender? Yeah.